أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, our dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to our Book of the World, Journeying with the Quran in 30 Nights. I welcome with me my dear brother Dr. Hassan Lamy. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel titled Enlightened Thought. You can also follow us on Facebook, sydney.org.au. Allahumma allimna ma yanfa'una wanfa'na bima 'allamtana wa zidna ilma. O Allah, teach us what benefits us and benefit us with what you have taught us and increase us in knowledge. Tonight's roadmap will flow as follows. At the beginning,
inshallah, I'll be talking about the structure and scaffold of Surah Al-Hijr, and then I'll be focusing on verses 45 to 51 about the notion of al-ghil, the moral vices which chain us from progressing in life.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan. And over the two parts, I will cover the notion of animals as aesthetic phenomena for our contemplative and spiritual well-being. Without further ado, let us now move to Sheikh Mohammed Wehby for the first recitation of the Quran for tonight.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن المتقين في جنات وعيون ادخلوها بسلام آمنين ونزعنا ما في صدورهم من غل إخوانا على سرر متقابلين لا يمسهم فيها نصب وما هم منها بمخرجين نبئ عبادي أني أنا الغفور الرحيم وأن عذابي هو العذاب الأليم ونبئهم عن ضيف إبراهيم.
Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome back to 14th night. I would like to pass my sincere congratulations on the birth of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, the second Imam, and the grandson of Prophet and the first son of Imam Ali alayhi salam and Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra salamullah alayha. Inshallah we can benefit from his legacy and inshallah we can mention some of his moral traits. So first let's talk about Surah Al-Hijr. Tonight we're covering Juz' 14, Juz' number 14, in which two major chapters are present, Surah Al-Hijr and Surah Al-Nahl. So I'll be providing the scaffolding Al-Hijr, and then I'll be focusing on verses 45 to 51, which was recited by Sheikh Dehnawi. Surah Al-Hijr, which is Surah number 15, it refers to the place where the tribe of Thamud used to live. Tribe of Thamud, they used to live north of Medina, about 500 years before the presence of Muslims or the prophetic mission. So they were north of Medina, and it was known to be a very important city in terms of business and in terms of civilization, which connected the eastern to the western side, the eastern world to the western world through this roadmap. The name of Al-Hijr is from verse number 80 in this surah, وَلَقَدْ كَذَبَ أَصْحَابِ الْحِجْرِ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. The Al-Hijr, considering it is of the same root of Hajar, Al-Ahjar, indicates the architectural design of the houses which these people used to build. And that's why I said they had a civilization, because civility connects with architecture. You cannot find any civilization across human history without the notion of architecture. And that's why, again, in Quran says, وَكَانُوا يَنْحِتُونَ مِنَ الْجِبَالِ بُيُوتًا, that they had this level of technology pertinent to their time, that they were able to build houses and craft inside the mountains. You can imagine it is very hard to do so even with the current technology, but they had this civilizational power and the tools to do so. And as a result, they thought because of this power, nothing can basically destroy and perish them. And the prophet who was sent to this Qawm Thamud was Prophet Salih alayhi salam. But as Quran says, وَآتَيْنَاهُمْ آيَاتُنَا فَكَانُوا عَنْهَا مُعْرِضِينَ, that the fact that mu'ridin is mentioned indicates they had so much civilizational arrogance that they did not even listen to it. Why? Because they were able to build houses with the technology they have inside the mountains, and obviously you can imagine it is of strength and rigidity and architectural design which can withstand any natural disaster. As a result, they did not even pay attention. They were not even coming to listen. Mu'ridin, completely ignoring it. So that's where the name Al-Hijr comes. Again, if you remember, we said that the 6 chapters from chapter 10 to chapter 15, they are connected surah. Alif Lam Ra, connected surah where they talk about the previous nations. And again, the same thing in this chapter, talk about the previous prophets and nations and how they approached the issue of guidance in the community and how they approached prophets. In terms of the timeline when it was revealed, it seems like this chapter is in Mecca in year 4 and 5. So it's very early on where Prophet just started his mission to be declared openly, starting from his family, وَأَنذَرْ عَشِيرَتِكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, and then going on to the rest of the community. So again, this can help us, this chapter, connected to our current life, that we thought with so much technology and civilizational power, nothing can beat us. And we can see an RNA, which is not even seen by naked eyes, has flipped the world upside down in the last few months. Again, we can connect this to Surah Al-Hijr and Ashab Al-Hijr, as Qawm Thamud, and the Qawm of Prophet Salih, whereby Quran Surah An-Nisa 7:8 says that أَيْنَمَا تَكُونُوا يُدْرِكُكُمُ الْمَوْتِ وَلَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُرُوجٍ مُشَيَّدَةٍ, that death it is inevitable, will meet you wherever you are, even if you are in the highest and strongest palaces that you've chosen for your dwelling and for your living. And the same thing happened to Surah Al-Hijr. Surah Al-Hijr we can divide into 8 parts. There is an introduction and there are 7 parts to it. Because of the limitation of time, I won't go through these 7 parts, but what you can do after the introduction, which is the first few verses, you can see every few verses there is وَلَقَدْ. وَلَقَدْ is as if there is a chapter of history being mentioned. And the last 15 verses is changing the address to the Prophet to tell the Prophet 10 commandments, which 8 are the positive commandments and 2 are negative commandments, meaning 8 do's and 2 don'ts. In what context? In the context of Mecca, in his response to the polytheists, to the kuffar. And like فَاصْفَحَ الصَّفْحَ الجَّمِيلِ, that the response to those who disbelieve in you, reject you, annoy you, attack you, is not anything of the notion of war, fight and violence. Rather, it is فَاصْفَحَ الصَّفْحَ الجَّمِيلِ, open another page with them and make this page to be the most beautiful page. Or وَخْفِضْ جَنَاحَكَ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. This is the last 15 verses, again giving the notion of the freedom of choice, and at the same time having your own belief system and being clear about it and being obvious and without being ashamed and embarrassed about articulating it. So the notion of harmony and freedom of belief system does not indicate that we should basically give up our own belief system. No, I uphold my belief system, I articulate it confidently, but at the same time, this is not to force the other. And the last part of the surah, the 7th part, which I said the last 15 verses, provides these 10 commandments, 8 in the form of the positive, فَاصْفَحِ الصَّفْحَ الْجَمِيلَ وَاخْفِضْ جَنَاحَكَ, and then the other 2 is about not to do. Now I will focus now on the 5th part, which is from 49 to 79, whereby the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam and Lut alayhi salam is mentioned. As we have mentioned Ibrahim multiple times in the last few nights, you cannot mention him, because even Prophet was ordered to follow the Millat Ibrahim. He is the father of monotheism. So let's go to verses 45 and 51. If you have Quran, please open your Quran. 45. إِنَّ الْمُتَّقِينَ فِي جَنَّاتٍ وَعُيُونٍ. Indeed, those who have exercised self-control and piety will be in Jannat. Jannat come from Jannah. Jannah means something which is into each other. The reason the gardens is called Jannat, because the trees are mixed with each other so much that nothing gets through, no sunlight gets through. وَعُيُونٍ, rivers, multiple rivers. So indicating this continuity, this livelihood, this persistent life which is of greenery and which is of peace. أُدْخُلُوهَا بِسَلَامٍ آمِنِينَ. Enter these places with a sense of peace and serenity and security. وَنَزَعْنَا مَا فِي صُدُورِهِمْ مِنْ غِلٍّ. And we uprooted. Naza'na is uprooting, because now you can prune, you can cut, but here is uprooting, rooting out from their chest, from their heart. There is a difference between sudur and heart in the Quranic, but here we're translating as heart or chest. Ghil, here I want to focus a bit more. Ghil, basically when we look at the etymology in Arabic language, Ghil is the water which goes between the farm and the trees. We don't see it, and it's detrimental to the plants and the trees because it soaks, it suffocates the plants. Ghil is this unseen detrimental thing that is coming and affecting our life. And when we look at the Quran, we have ghil, aghlal. It's like chain. It's like something imprisoning you, something abandoning you. So in this sense, وَنَزَعْنَا مَا فِي صُدُورِهِمْ مِنْ غِلٍّ, we uprooted from them this sense of moral vice. We chained them. Any vice which chains you is a ghil, such as animosity, such as hatred, such as arrogance, such as jealousy, which we talked about yesterday. These people in the heaven, they don't have any of this moral vice, because any vice is like a chain. Jealousy is a chain, as we explained. Animosity is a chain. It chains you. It doesn't allow you to move. It imprisons you. So ghil, this moral vice, this chain that stops you to go further. إِخْوَانًا عَلَى سُرُرٍ مُتَقَابِلِينَ. Surur is from sarir, also surur. So you are in these high places where you are happy and facing each other. I'll move quickly because of the limitation of time. And then after mentioning this theoretical framework, as usual, Quran gives an example how you can exercise it. وَنَبِّئْهُمْ عَنْ ضَيْفِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Goes to the story of Ibrahim. So these verses are talking about the sense of ghil. When you have ghil is like a grudge. A grudge always prisons you, doesn't let you to behave with the other person in a humanistic, moral way. So as a result, you won't be able to sit with them face to face to have a proper dialogue that we've been talking about. You're basically away from them. You give them your back. You escape from them. You backbite them. you badmouth them, you basically
Shun them.
exactly, you block them off, and it takes us to the sense of clash of civilizations at a broadest basically perspective. At a small scale, we stop seeing each other, we start to spread rumors about each other. Now, why is the example of Ibrahim given in this surah and many other surah? This story is mentioned. So basically, in a nutshell, the angels come in the format of a human being to Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim, in the sense of hospitality that you have mentioned multiple times, welcome them. They give him a glad tiding that he'll have a son, although the wife and himself are surprised. We are at basically at the end of our life. This is not even possible biologically and physically. Ibrahim is not happy. He says to them in this verse, "Ma khatbukum." Khatb is what is the important issue. That's why the person you talk to is called al-mukhatab, because you're addressing them. They are the important factor, the addressee that you are talking to them. So وَمَا خَطْبُكُمْ, yeah, you gave me this glad tidings, it's important. Ishaq, my son, will be gifted to me. But tell me, what is the issue that you're coming with? Look at this lack of ghil in the heart of Ibrahim, because he knows angels don't come just purely for this personal issue. And they said, as in this chapter comes, we have brought adhab for the Qawm Lut. In the other chapter it says that وَجَاءَتْهُ الْبُشْرَى يُجَادِلُنَا فِي قَوْمِ لُوطٍ, that we don't know what conversation is happening, but he's not happy, he's arguing with them. Possibly, can we delay the adhab for Qawm Lut who are practicing this immoral, indecent actions? Maybe we can delay it. Look at the lack of ghil in his heart.
Perhaps Ibrahim alayhi salam, he is introducing a new type of negotiations. We can call it negotiation for compassion.
Allah. Indeed. One of the very possible notions, negotiation for compassion. And actually, I want to advocate for this point, because the next verse in Surah Hud that we covered earlier, 75, verse 75, it says, Inna Ibrahim lahalimun awahun munib. Awah is someone, it's come from When do you say When you receive a pain. Awah is someone who is tender heart, has a heart which is tender, which is soft, quickly gets this notion of this notion. So Ibrahim, despite being the glad tiding of having a son from his wife, the first wife who was infertile for the entire life, Sarah, God is blessing them with Ishaq, who is going to be a great prophet, continuing this progeny. He's not happy. Why? Because the adhab is coming to another nation, despite they being indecent. And then the verse in Surah Hud says, Ya Ibrahim a'rid an hadha. This negotiation of compassion is not possible. Why? Innahu qad jaa amru rabbik. That it is decided, decreed by God. Obviously, God is all knowledgeable, all compassionate, and no one can go beyond the knowledge and compassion of God. But the fact that Ibrahim, through Quran, shows us the courage to ask, as you covered in the first few nights, that liyatma'inna qalbi. I want to see. I'm a prophet, but I want to see. Or the courage to negotiate, even when it is obvious, to negotiate. So that's why I think Quran mentions the attributes of the people of the heaven. Why can't we create this heaven on this earth, where our heart is emptied and uprooted from any ghil, moral vices, from chains, from animosity, from jealousy? We're not saying it is 100% possible, but let's work on it. We are in this blessed month, and I think tonight, which is the birthday of Imam Hassan, is a role model of someone who did not have this ghil. We know that throughout his life, he donated twice his entire wealth. A man who swore at him, but he opened his heart without any ghil. Welcome to our house. we will feed you, we will give you clothes, we will give you a place to live. Or how he treated animals. He used to sit with them and feed them. How he treated even the enemy, Muawiyah. So again, Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam is an example of this awah, this tended heart, someone who doesn't have ghil, someone who tried to create the heaven on this earth before the day of judgment. So inshallah we can use these verses 45 to 51, which provides the theoretical framework, and then Ibrahim comes to give us the practical example that these things are not abstract ideas. I'm sorry I took a bit longer, but to you, Akh Muhammad.
Thank you very much, Hassan, for your wonderful sense of enthusiasm in explaining these brilliant concepts in the Quran. On the topic of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, even at the time of his death, he advised Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam to avoid a drop of blood if it was to be shed because of him.
Allah.
So even if Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam was to be buried outside of his grandfather's
Against his will,
mosque, against his will, he was willing to make the sacrifice for the sake of the sanctity of the Muslim ummah. So again, this is an example for us to really ponder on and embody inshallah in our lives and in our times and in our generations. Let us now move to the following passage in the Quran with Sheikh Mohammed al-Dihnawi.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم خلق الإنسان من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين والأنعام خلقها لكم فيها دفء ومنافع ومنها تأكلون ولكم فيها جمال حين تريحون وحين تسرحون وتحمل أثقالكم إلى بلد لم تكونوا بالغيه إلا بشق الأنفس إن ربكم لرؤوف رحيم والخيل والبغال والحمير لتركبوها وزينة ويخلق ما لا تعلمون
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi, brothers and sisters. At the beginning of Surah Al-Nahl, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا جَمَالٌ حِينَ تُرِيحُونَ وَحِينَ تَسْرَحُونَ. Verse number 6. And He creates livestock for you to provide warmth and other benefits and to eat. This is the verse before, verse number 6. There is beauty in them for you when you bring them home in the evenings and release them to pasture in the mornings. In this particular passage of the Quran, I will shed some light on the notion of the aesthetics of animals in our lives and how the Quran actually brings forth the beauty of nature as an important field for our own contemplative growth and self-development. But before I actually explain the themes associated with this notion in the Quran, as usual, I prefer to inductively begin from the questions of our society, from the concerns of our society.
Al-istinta'.
Hassan. And that's why in the Arabic language, when you say an-naqd, which means the critical tradition, the critical thinking, in its etymological root, it is traced back to the action of a bird. نقد الطائر الحب. When a bird picks a particular seed from the ground, he actually looks up But then it looks down again to pick the second seed, as if an-naqd teaches us this exercise of moving back and forth between the values and the society. You need to choose the questions of your society, but not lose sight of the broad context of the values that you belong to.
And your sacred book.
And your sacred book, absolutely. 30 years ago, a very interesting American survey showed that most children in New York thought that milk, which they saw packaged in supermarkets, was a manufactured product like Coca-Cola. These new human beings living in the age of mass production, marketing, advertising, TV channels, TV programs, images, social media, they are no longer living in nature. They know only the city, which we all live in, and most of us live in today. But when they go on a holiday, on a vacation, they stay in what sociologists term none places. None places are places that very much look like Singapore airport, where you have designed nature that is totally artificial. And so when we come across this phenomenon in our day and age, we come to realize that it represents an anthropological revolution since the Neolithic age of our human history and our human evolution. And when I say anthropological, I mean what is unique in the human context as opposed to other creatures and species. So our children today, and we can also consider ourselves children, as in the children of our time and the children of our society, we are living in a superpopulated world. But the danger of this lifestyle is that we have not, and we may never, experience what it means to live in rural life, what it means to be in close proximity to nature, including animals. And so philosophers today argue that media, which is taking the role of educating our children and rearing them by providing them a new culture, including social media, what is happening is that the length of a visual image is reduced to 7 seconds, and the time to answer questions is reduced to 15 seconds, which again goes to show you that our attention span is not only becoming shorter as a natural byproduct of these developments in our society, but more dangerously, we are no longer able to restore and redeem our attention because we no longer have access to the very nature that helps us restore and redeem this lost attention. So as if we have become entrapped in a digital panopticon, in an iron cage, whereby we have no escape out of, no exit point out of, to think and rethink the very problems and issues of our time. And this is why I believe introducing these topics is very important, because they help us gain the sense of awakeness, the sense of enlightenment. At least we should be aware of what's happening around us and not remain in a state of heedlessness, assuming that by virtue of, let's say, watching a documentary about wildlife, that we are able to restore this attention. Because we got to take into account the medium, which is the screen, that's pretty much mediating the natural world and our own perception of it, as opposed to the natural and direct perception of the world. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, we are also for the first time in history, seeing things on TV that don't actually happen frequently in everyday life. Take, for example, how by the age of 12, adults have already forced children to see 20,000 killings. All these crime stories and all these screening of violence that we see is something that we often overlook and perhaps downplay their effect, which leave untold psychological damage on the very moral and aesthetic development of our children. So what we learn from advertising and the images that we consume on a daily basis is that the very abbreviations and the very foreign words that we receive from the media also cause the native language of ours to lose its meaning. And that is how our very language, our very cultural character becomes shattered, disintegrated, without any strong foundation, without any structure, without any uniqueness. My dear brothers and sisters, what this means in today's world is that data, which is information, has replaced sensory pleasure. So when the Quran says وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا جَمَالٌ حِينَ تُرِيحُونَ وَحِينَ تُسْرِحُونَ, he is trying to tell us that you will only appreciate the beauty of these animals if you maintain that sense of sensory pleasure. But in this day and age, our sensory pleasure is not as it should be. And again, diagnosing the problem is the first step to finding a solution that helps us achieve a good prognosis. So this is the first step. And so, to give you an example of what I mean by this principle, take for example how we are becoming less interested in tasting the sweetness of honey, but more interested in reading the description about the honey product. Take for example how we have become more interested in looking at the catalogues and the manuals of tourism and the great nature in Singapore and Thailand, but becoming less interested in exploring the very nature in our local neighborhood. These are, my dear brothers and sisters, examples of how we have lost this sensory touch with our local environment. Now, what is the macro, what is the holistic, the broader significance of this topic? And why are scholars and academics and researchers from across different disciplines becoming interested in exploring the question of aesthetics in the natural world and the human world? Based on my humble research, I surveyed the literature and I found 6 key factors that represent 6 key areas of research and reflection that help us understand the significance of this Quranic passage. And this relates to the very theme behind this ayah in the Quran. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the sensory pleasure we get from contemplating on the beauty of animals when resting, it is actually talking about animals beyond biology, beyond predator and prey, which is our prevalent biological paradigm when it comes to our understanding of the animal kingdom. So the Quran, and I'll give an example from a modern psychologist who actually proved this point in his brilliant work, James Hillman, in my second participation. The Quran is trying to say that there is a relationship between the human being and the animal world. And this relationship is one of mutual beautification. And it's not a one-way beautification. Let me begin with the first historical factor. This revisitation of the relationship between the human world and the animal world emerged particularly after the liberation politics of the 1970s, especially with feminism. One of the important works published in 1975 is Peter Singer's book Animal Liberation. And again, from there on, you will begin to see what we call today the defense of animal rights and animal activism. Obviously, before Peter Singer, we know Albert Schweitzer published his work Reverence for Life, in which he also tried to highlight the importance of the sanctity of animal life in light of the monotheistic worldview. Nevertheless, the second factor is what's called in the literature HAS, H-A-S. So the human-animal relationship. The postmodern questioning of nature and culture divide. We know nature and culture divide is one of the prevalent modern concepts. So what makes us unique from nature? The postmodern questioning of this divide led to the emergence of what we call cognitive ethology. Cognitive ethology looks at how animals actually have emotions and intelligence. And the Quran alludes to this in particular context. So intelligence is not limited anymore to human beings. And as we said in previous nights, we shouldn't define the human being by intelligence, because other animals may have higher forms of intelligence than the human being. Number 4, ecological responsibility as a result of global warming. Number 5, the interdisciplinary study of animals beyond biology. And this is called today in the literature the ecology of living and the ecology of life, or what they call the science of the heart. So that's number 5. Number 6, the decline in anthropocentrism, which happened at the time where human beings have and are still experiencing the anxiety, the existential anxiety, the postmodern anxiety, where we have, this disintegration with tradition. We no longer refer to tradition, religion, and these grand narratives that provide us with that sense of security and that sense of tranquility in the world. So this disconnection from history, from tradition, as a result of modernity's narrative, led to this existential insecurity. And that's why today you see the emergence of subcultures and friendship communities as one possible response to this integration of tradition and religion in our everyday lives. So people are looking for new sources of belonging that help them maintain that security. So in light of this postmodern crisis, what we see is a sentimentalizing of animals, meaning that animals are now becoming not only objects of research but subjects of experience. Take for example the horse in the British imagination, the modern British imagination. The horse represents the cowboy warrior. It represents notions of nationhood, notions of victory, notions of pride, national pride. After this shift from anthropocentrism, which is focusing on the human being as the center of everything, we begin to see a shift in the very British relationship with horses. Now we are focusing on natural horsemanship, which is creating a deep and lasting relationship with the horse through compassion, kindness, that sense of narrative. And again, this reminds us of Prophet Muhammad's tradition, that even when you ride animals, ride them with that gentleness. Even animals have rights. And I'll get to this point later. So this gentler handling of horses becomes an important area for our understanding of the relationship between humans and animals. And finally, the 7th factor, which is a theology of nature, as Dr. Hussein Nasr puts it. The Abrahamic traditions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, recently came out of this crisis with a new theology of nature, which again is rooted in the Islamic tradition, but we are beginning to expand on it to make sense of these developments. Without further ado, I will stop here. I think I went way beyond time. Inshallah, we can go for a 5-minute break and then return to our final part, inshallah.
You came to me in that hour of need, when I was so lost, so lonely. You came to me, took my breath away, showed me the right way, the way to lead. You filled my heart with love, showed me the light above. Now all I want is to be with you. You are my one true love, taught me to never judge. Now all I want is to be with you. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Mustafa, ala Habibika Nabika Mustafa. You came to me in a time of despair. I called on you, you were there. Without you, what would my life be? To not know the unseen, the worlds between. For you I'd sacrifice, for you I'd give my life, anything, just to be with you. I feel so lost at times by all the hurt and lies. Now all I want is to be with you. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Mustafa, ala Habibika Nabika Mustafa. Showed me right from wrong, told me to be strong. Need you more than ever, Ya Rasulullah. You came to me in that hour of need. Need you more than ever, Ya Rasulullah. You filled my heart with love, showed me the light above. Now all I want is to be with you. You are my one true love, taught me to never judge. Now all I want is to be with you. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Mustafa, ala Habibika Nabika Mustafa. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Mustafa, ala Habibika Nabika Mustafa. For you I'd sacrifice, for you I'd give my life, anything, just to be with you.
Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. Thank you, Akh Muhammad, for the insightful comments and how we may connect with nature again. I actually enjoyed it. It's very academic, maybe we have big vocabularies, but I'm sure the audience are of the caliber that they can understand and appreciate and go further and research it. So I'll be covering this second part, the first section of the second part, Surah An-Nahl, the verses 51-54. Before I cover it, we go to Sheikh Muhammad to recite for us these blessed verses.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقال الله لا تتخذوا إلهين اثنين إنما هو إله واحد فإياي فارهبون وله ما في السماوات والأرض وله الدين واصبا أفغير الله تتقون وما بكم من نعمة فمن الله ثم إذا مسكم الضر فإليه تجأرون ثم إذا كشف الضر عنكم إذا فريق منكم بربهم يشركون.
Assalamu alaikum again, brothers and sisters, and Akh Muhammad and Akh Muhammad Sadiq, and to our dear viewers. So Nahl 51-54, let's go through them. Before reciting these verses, one of the ways that we understand a conversation is through the tone of the voice. And obviously we have been deprived from the tone of voice of Quran because we're not at the time of Prophet. So it will be an excellent exercise for our imagination whenever we read a verse to imagine how would Prophet read it? What was the tone of voice that he had? Here I think it's an emotional, lovely tone of voice. وَقَالَ اللَّهُ, that Prophet is saying, God is saying, with this sense of compassion and a broken heart, وَقَالَ اللَّهُ لَا تَتَّخِذُوا إِلَهَيْنِ اثْنَيْنِ. Allah has said, do not take two gods. إِنَّمَا هُوَ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ. Indeed, He is only one Allah, one God. فَإِيَّايَ فَارْهَبُونَ. And you should and you shall only be. Here farhabun is translated as fear or afraid. In Quran, as previous nights we have talked about, there are many words which indicate the component of fear, such as wajila, we covered wajila, khashya, khawf, ru'b. Here rahiba, for example, we have ruhban as well, the priest, the ruhban. It's a type of fear which is continuous with you. It causes that sense of worry, but it is out of love. It is not out of like a severe punishment. So what does the verse mean by ilahain ithnain? Multiple interpretations. I'll provide two. One, based on the other verse in Quran, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. So the two gods here, is it your selfishness or you want to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So this duality, the duality of self or God. So that's one understanding, ilahain ithnain. Or the other one is أَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهُ وَاجْتَنِبُ الطَّاغُوتِ. That are you worshipping God or the tyrants in any format, either in the format of a king, in the format of a political party, in the format of a religious leader, in the format of financial enterprise, in the format of a work, basically workaholic behavior, in the format of science. What are some of the gods that we have in this day and age? Scientism. That science will provide the answer for everything. That's one of the gods that we have. Money has been always a god. Work, another possible god. Or even hobbies can become a god. So ilahain ithnain either refers to the self, where it is always about the self-centeredness, or it is about the taghut, in all different formats. So let's continue. وَلَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, and belongs to him only whatever is in the skies, heavens and earth. وَلَهُ الدِّينُ وَاصِبًا. Deen has multiple meanings. Here deen means the rewards and the punishments. Wasiba meaning only belongs and constantly belongs to him. أَفَغَيْرَ اللَّهِ تَتَّقُونَ. Are you, again تَتَّقُونَ, the component of fear, but with the loss of self-control. وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. Whatever blessing is there is from God. ثُمَّ إِذَا مَسَّكُمُ الضُّرُّ فَإِلَيْهِ تَجْأَرُونَ. And whenever you are inflicted with a pain, you basically cry, you run, that you remember there is a God. ثُمَّ إِذَا كَشَفَ الضُّرَّ عَنْكُمْ إِذًا فَرِيقٌ مِّنْكُمْ بِرَبِّهِمْ يُشْرِكُونَ. And when that affliction, that suffering, that pain is removed from you, then a group of you, fariq from faraqa, meaning a group of you will forget that who removed this pain and suffering. لِيَكْفُرُوا بِمَا آتَيْنَاهُمْ. Here لِيَكْفُرُوا means they are ungrateful to what we have given them. فَتَمَتَّعُوا فَسَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ. So let them enjoy yourselves, for soon will you know. Here in the first part, I wanted to emphasize the notion of two gods, that on a constantly we are living this situation, and that's why in Quran again Ibrahim always been mentioned as the one who was not a mushrik. Why? Because this is a constant struggle for us in order to turn our compass towards this unity, Tawheed, in its purest form. As the hadith says, الشرك في قلب مؤمن, is that the shirk, this two God nature, this dualism is like the ant, the black ant on a very dark night, on a very on a rock, which is basically indicating that hardship in order to see shirk even for the most faithful people. In the second part, whereby when you are afflicted with a pain and when this affliction is removed, you have this sense of what is called in virtue ethics ingratefulness, ingratitude. So you have gratitude, which means you're grateful, and you have ingratitude, which means you are ungrateful. Modern psychology has shown that the virtue of gratitude can solve many of our psychological diseases. It can provide us with even a healthy body, can provide us with healthy relationship. The concept of the gratitude, if it's understood in its best form and it's practiced in its correct form. Gratitude is different from appreciation. Appreciation is recognition and enjoyment of good qualities in someone. But when we talk about gratitude, is recognition on top of the awe, wonder and humility. So gratitude is not only you are recognizing good qualities, you're enjoying good qualities, but there is that sense of humility in the gratification. There is that sense of wonder and profound humility that you express to the other. And that's why they say, psychologists and sociologists say that the culture which has gratitude exercised, they will move from a culture of me to culture of us, from the culture of rights and entitlements to culture of duties and obligations. You can see the paradigm shift, because when I'm grateful, it means I don't feel entitled. It means I don't feel superior. It means I am compassionate to the amount of work that you have done, and I'm humbled. And that's why in Quran, one of the meaning of kufr is being ungrateful, because of the profound effects of such a virtue and ingratitude, which is a vice. When you read the world literature, gratitude has been referred to multiple things. the memory of the heart. Gratitude is recognized as the memory of the heart, the moral memory of mankind, or the queen of virtues. And that is the notion of gratitude. There are a lot of things to be said, but we just want to limit the time so we finish on time. All I would say, in modern psychology, now there are exercises for gratitude. One of the simple exercises you can do every morning when you wake up, just list the things that you have in life that you can be happy and you can be grateful. List them. Because gratitude is telling us, from a psychological perspective, let's focus on what we have, not focus on what we don't have. Because in a consumerist society and a negative competition and a comparison that we talked yesterday, when everything is about comparison, competition, then you focus on what you don't have, the half empty of the glass. And when you focus on what you don't have, you're basically generating and receiving negativity on a momentarily basis. Gratitude is not only fostering bonding and relationships and giving positivity to the other. Gratitude is telling you to be positive in its sincere form, not in basically in unrealistic format. So look up the literature, look on Google, some exercises for gratitude, so we can move from the vice of kufr in the meaning of ungratefulness to the virtue of gratitude being gratefulness. And I pass to you, Akh Muhammad, and define some possible ways that we can as well exercise the notion of gratitude.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan Lamy, for your astute insights on gratitude. Please share with us your thoughts about what gratitude means to you and how we can exercise it. I guess Brother Hassan Lamy mentioned something very important that we recommend, and that is having a character journal. A character journal allows you to tell stories about the exercise of virtues on a daily basis. So you journal your experiences, which helps us retain these virtues as habits in our everyday lives. Thank you, Hassan. Let us listen once again to Sheikh Muhammad al-Dehnawi for verse number 6 in Surah Al-Nahl.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقال الله لا تتخذوا إلهين اثنين إنما هو إله واحد فإياي فارهبون وله ما في السماوات والأرض وله الدين واصبا أفغير الله تتقون وما بكم من نعمة فمن الله ثم إذا مسكم الضر فإليه تجأرون ثم إذا كشف الضر عنكم إذا فريق منكم بربهم يشركون.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi, dear brothers and sisters. I'll finish off by revisiting the moral lesson behind the ayah وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا جَمَالٌ حِينَ تُرِيحُونَ وَحِينَ تَسْرَحُونَ. When the Quran speaks about raha and tasrih in the context of animals, it reminds us of the etymological root of jamal, beauty. Ibn Jinni, he was one of the great phoneticians in the Islamic civilization. He was born in Basra in the year 322 Hijri. He discovers a beautiful semantic tie between Jamal, Naqa and Jamal. So Jamal is the male camel in the desert, naqa is the she camel and jamal is beauty. So jamal is connected to camels and to the naqa, the she camels. That's why in the Arabic language, when we describe elegance, we say anaqa. Ta'annuq means to be elegant, to actually work on beautifying your appearance. And so when I reflected on the meaning of jamal, the jamal is not only beautiful in its appearance. I think its appearance provides us with an entry point into something more beautiful about the jamal, the camel, and that is its patience. Its patience. The jamal carries our luggage and baggage. It travels long distances. It conserves water. It is capable of not only carrying our things and stuff, but it is also capable of relieving us from the hardship and trauma of the travel by virtue of its very beauty. Just look into the eyes of the jamal, of the camel. It looks like a big blueberry that is, subhanallah, reflective of the beauty of Allah's creation. More than that, if the jamal is a symbol for the tahammul, for the will to be patient and have resilience and endurance, doesn't this remind you of how the Quran associates sabr with jameel?
فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ.
فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. The Quran is saying that when you reach sabr, in other words, as Brother Hassan mentioned in previous nights, when this fruit breaks through the thorns and the very dry environment and climate of the desert, you actually reach a point where you begin to see beauty and taste sweetness in the very hardship. So you will no longer complain about the very hardships you are going through. So this is the beauty of Jamal. Now when the Quran says وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا جَمَالٌ حِينَ تُرِيحُونَ وَحِينَ تَسْرَحُونَ, I think it is teaching us a becoming process. We describe our hyperactive society today as a rat race. The problem with a rat race is that even if you win the race, you still remain a rat. So there is no becoming process. Whereas when you contemplate on the Jamal, you can actually become the Sabr al-Jamil.
Prophet Yaqub mentions it twice.
Hassan. Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam was praying to God to relieve him, Prophet Ayub, to relieve him from the disease so that he can continue to contemplate and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not for his own health and for his own benefit at an individual level. Subhanallah. So this is the beauty of patience, beauty in animals, and our relationship with this world of God's beauty. When we look at this meaning of turihun wa tasrahun, the first virtue that comes to mind is the virtue of lingering in the English language. When you linger somewhere, you stay there for longer than expected because you enjoy the scenery. So there is this scenery of kamaliness, the attractiveness of a beauty that arrests you and disallows you from returning to your everyday life. Now the Quran is teaching us that we need this break from our hectic everyday work schedule. But this break needs to be a beautiful break and not any break where we sit behind the TV, we drink Pepsi or Cola, and then,
Enjoy the documentaries.
But rather go out to nature and contemplate on nature. That's why in the Western tradition they distinguish between two types of activities since the Greek civilization. You had vita activa, which means the practical activity, and you had vita contemplativa, which is a contemplative life. Now obviously Hannah Arendt, in her book Human Condition, she tried to defend the practical activity, but I think in our day and age we have enough practicality and enough activity that we need to return to the contemplative activity of our lives. So in the Christian mystical tradition, for example, we see contemplative life in terms of the concept of releasement. Releasement meaning to let things appear as they are and not to project on them your own concepts, your own preferences, your own worries, your own concerns, but rather let them appear as they are and let them impact you in whatever state you are in. And so this takes us to how the Quran is the recorded book that speaks about the cosmic book, which is nature. So the first revelation is actually Al-Kitab al-Manzur, which is the natural world. And the recorded book, which is Al-Kitab al-Mastur, the Quran, is the book that refers us back to the actual natural book of the world.
And then the Kitab al-Natiq, the role models connected to.
Ahsant, and Kitab al-Natiq, role models are another form of the book, the living book. Ahsant. So what do we gain from all this? I think Maulana Jalaluddin al-Rumi has a beautiful saying. He once said, there are silent creatures in the world. They are silent here, but eloquent there. He says, if only creatures had tongues, they could lift the veil from the divine mysteries. Allah. If you want to read more about this, I'll refer you to a well-known American psychologist who passed away in 2011, revolutionized the aesthetic of animals and critiqued psychology for actually focusing on the interior individual self and less on the beauty of the outer world. His name is James Hillman. In his book Dream Animals, he says the animal is an aesthetic creation. The animal eye is an aesthetic eye, and the animal is compelled by an aesthetic necessity to present itself as image. Dr. Hillman also says in his book The Soul's Code that of all psychology's sins, the most mortal is its neglect of beauty, especially in the natural world. He offered one remedy for that sin through an appreciation of the aesthetic display of animals.
Gratitude.
And gratitude. Isn't this a possible insight into this Quranic ayah? I'll finish off with what this meaning of turihuna wa tasrahun means. It means one word, my dear brothers and sisters, and that is attention. And attention comes from the Latin attendere, to stretch toward. That's why we say even in the layman language, yasrah nadaruka, your eye, your vision lets go of all the focus on the micro, dynamics of your screen, of your iPhone screen, which limits your vision, whereas the open landscape of nature actually allows your vision to let go, to stretch out. That's why unemployment is, in Arabic, in today's business world, is also described as tasrih, to let go and no longer be enclosed within what you are in. So that's the first meaning. Second meaning, to attend, meaning to take care of. So we need to take care of the animal world in order to preserve our ability to do the tasrih, to stretch out and enjoy the beauty. And finally, attendant, which means one who attends, one who takes the initiative to be present in the beauty of the animal. So to be present is to present oneself to that which calls for our attention. As one of the students in the Zen tradition once said to his master, he said to him, "O master," and he was a diligent student, "teach me the secret of the Dharma." He said to him, I will not teach you by words. He took the brush, he dipped it in ink, and he wrote the word attention. Then the student said to him, you're a master, you should give me a more sophisticated answer. He wasn't happy. He dipped it again in the ink, and then he wrote attention, attention twice. Finally, the student was still dissatisfied. So the master dipped it again and wrote the word attention in bold 3 times. Attention, attention, attention. He said to him, this is the secret of Dharma, the principle on which the universe is built. It is attention. You are not paying attention to the very act of me writing the word attention. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أحسن.